And once you found that comfortable seat, allow your eyes to close. Let your hands rest on your thighs. And then take a full inhale, maybe even draw those shoulders up toward your ears. And then let that go. Allow yourself to drop into the room, onto your mat, and into your body. Taking in your surroundings, acknowledging what's around you, and allowing your surroundings to be part of the experience today. Instead of thinking of them as a distraction or an annoyance, when that starts to happen, invite them to be part of the experience today. Take a full inhale, let that belly expand. And then sigh out the breath. Dropping into that physical body. Notice the sensations as you sit here on your mat. Notice how the floor or any cushion supports you. Notice the sensation of the clothing on your body. And then just start to scan over the body, acknowledge any areas that are a little tense, a little sore, any areas that might need a little extra special attention today. And just be mindful of those areas as we start to get into our practice. And again, let that belly expand nice and big. Take a full inhale. And then as you sigh it out, let that belly contract back to the center line. Start to drop into your mental and emotional body. Notice any thoughts that are popping around in your head, any emotions that are attached to those thoughts. And just see if you can acknowledge them. Try not to get caught up in their story, got caught up in the drama. Just see if you can notice those thoughts, those emotions. And then anything that's not going to serve you in a positive way tonight on your mat, anything that's going to be a distraction. See if you can try to give that thought some validity, that emotion some loving kindness, and then see if you can send it away. Put it in a bubble, put it on a cloud, whatever works for you. See if you can let it go. And it might take a few rounds of acknowledging it before it's ready to let go. But usually by acknowledging our thoughts, acknowledging those worries, that anxiety, giving it some validity, helps us then confront it and deal with it. Take a full inhale here. And let it go. Dropping more into the present with our breath. Maybe even taking those hands and placing them on your belly and really feel the belly expand into your hands as you inhale. And then as you exhale, feel the ribs and the belly drop back to the center line. Take a few deep breaths here. Just kind of notice the sensations that happen in the body. Any changes that happen in the mind. Nice big belly breaths. It's good to help expand and contract here, knowing that we're going to deal with the spleen and the meridian lines of the spleen and the stomach. Stomach, it's all about digestion. The spleen helps and aids in that digestion. So it's good to let go of any tension we have around the midsection so that we're able to give those organs for digestion a little bit more room, a little bit more ease. The element of the spleen and the stomach meridians is earth. So it's a very grounding quality to this practice. And a couple of the affirmations that are along with both of these, I'm going to tell you now. Maybe one of those becomes your intention for your practice. Maybe it's something you say throughout the practice. For the spleen meridian, it is confidence and about the future. So my future is safe, or I feel safe, or I believe and trust in my future. The stomach affirmations, those dealing with calmness. I am calm. I am content. And maybe your affirmation kind of molds two of those together. Whatever is going to feel best in your body, in your mind. And I'll remind you of those as the practice goes on. But maybe something attaches now. Take another full inhale here. And sigh it out. And allow your eyes to blink open. We're going to move into our first stretch, which is our first pose, which is going to get into all of the meridians. It's one of my favorites now, the ankle toe stretch. So you're going to come onto your toes. So you're going to come onto your knees. If you need any padding underneath your knees, please do so. And you're going to see if you can get all 5 toes on each foot to point forward, even that little pinky toe, and then sit back on your heels. If this is too much sensation for you, you can take a block or a pillow or something, place it between your heels so you have a little less sensation, or lean forward. We're going to be here for a minute. So we're going to alternate between this pose and another pose, ankle stretch, each of them for a minute. So with the yin practice, all of the meridians start in the toes. With the yang, they all end in the toes. So it's kind of nice. They get into those feet. They go across the top of the feet, between the toes, soles of the feet, the ankles. So you're getting all this area in these poses right here. So if you only do one thing a day for your meridians, this might be it. These next 6 minutes. And again, if any time something becomes too painful and it's kind of going to that sensation of pain rather than just sensation of discomfort, come out of it and join us in the next part. So from here, start to come forward, and you're going to come down onto those ankles, point the toes back, and sit back. So again, if you have too much sensation in the ankles, you can take a rolled up towel so that your ankle's over that, so it gives you more space for that flexion. I just like the comfort of the blanket under my legs. And then over time, if you're feeling like you can go a little bit deeper, maybe you start to lift those knees, creating more sensation in those ankles. So just over time, just notice what feels best to you. And I definitely notice I feel a little bit more mobility in my ankles after doing this every day. It's one of the things I like to do in the mornings. There's a couple days where I forgot to do it, and I just felt different. It was a strange sensation. I was like, I feel different, and then I kind of figured out what it was. I kind of missed doing this. Go ahead and tuck those toes again. Come back to that sensation. Again, for people that might be newer to this practice, when we start to get into the yin practice, it's not a stretching practice. So we're getting into those tendons and ligaments, the softer tissues of our body, our connective tissues. And so we want to go for sensation. So sensation of maybe a little bit of tension, maybe a little bit of length, but not necessarily a stretch. So we're not using our muscles. We're trying to relax our muscles as much as possible. So in this pose, not a ton of muscle action happening. We're just sitting on our legs. But you definitely feel sensation probably in the soles of your feet, definitely in your toes. Maybe some sensation in your knees. And then go ahead and transition again. Coming back down. And again, over time, maybe those knees lift up a little bit. And if you don't like to lean back, you always have the option of a block underneath. There's just going to be more sensation. And again, go to where your sensation that you can hold and hold comfortably for the time that we're here. This is one of those poses like this ankle stretch. It definitely gets better very quickly with practice, because I never thought I'd be able to put a block underneath my foot or underneath my knees. No way, but it's happening. And then go ahead and transition our last round of 2 of these poses. This is where all the goodness starts to happen. And as long as it's not painful, see if you can sit with that sensation. Just notice the sensations and take your awareness to those areas and take the breath to those areas and see if you can kind of sense those energy channels, those meridian lines in your feet start to open. Start to have more fluid flow through them. Starting to nourish your feet. And then slowly start to transition down to those feet. Point the toes one last time here. And then slowly start to shift your hips to one side, bring those ankles to one side, and then bring those legs out in front of you. Extend them out. And just pause, just kind of notice those sensations. Maybe even close the eyes. And just kind of notice those sensations that are happening in the tops of the feet, the toes, the shins. And then start to bring any movement into those toes and ankles that feels good. Maybe start to wiggle the toes first. Then maybe ankle circles, go nice and slow. Just notice those sensations. And then any other movement that feels natural. I tend to get cold when I do this practice, so I'm going to put on my socks now after that practice. If you need anything at any time, if you tend to get cold, please do. Our next pose is going to be child's pose. So we're going to be here just for a short time, 3 minutes, still getting into the front of the shins, but getting into that inner groin a little bit. So start to transition to hands and knees. And then take your knees wide. See if you can take them nice and wide, get those big toes to touch, and then start to sit back to your heels. And again, if it's too much sensation on the heels, you can always place a blanket underneath your hips on your heels. And just start at your shoulder or your elbows. And just kind of notice those sensations happening. And then start to maybe lengthen forward. Maybe your forehead rests on a pillow, maybe a block. Arms can go forward, or maybe they reach back to your heels. Just start to settle into stillness. So reminding ourselves of our 3 principles of yin. The first is finding your edge. So the edge being you're feeling that sensation. So the sensation is tolerable, It's not comfortable, it's uncomfortable, but it's not painful. So you're coming to that edge to where you feel something, maybe right now in your hips, your knees, your ankles, and you're able to sit with it. And then we're sitting in that for stillness. So once you're there, you're finding some stillness, resisting the urge to fidget and move all the time. If you have that urge all the time, it might mean you're too deep and you've gone past that first step of the edge. So lift yourself up, find some way to modify that you can sit for stillness. And then the third principle is we sit for time. So this pose will be here for about another 2.5 minutes. Sorry, 1.5 minutes. Just kind of noticing those sensations that are happening in the body. Notice how your body moves as you breathe. And if at any time maybe your edge disappears because your body adjusts to the shape that you're in, you can always go a little bit deeper into your pose. Maybe lengthen the arms out, maybe let the head go down a little bit lower. Maybe even taking those knees out a little wider. But then quickly settling back into that stillness. Taking a nice full inhale here. And let it go. Slowly walk those hands underneath the shoulders. And then slowly press yourself forward onto those hands and knees. Maybe from here you have the option to do a little cat-cow. You can extend one leg at a time, or maybe you just press back into downward dog for a moment, stretching out the backs of the legs. Taking any movements you need to here to let go of that pose. And then from here, we're going to move into our next pose. This is going to be a right side and a left side pose called dragon. So coming down to your hands and knees. And then from here, you're going to take that right foot, you're going to step it forward. And if you need any padding under that back knee, you can always place a blanket, a pillow. If you find that the top of the knee hurts, take that pillow or blanket and put it underneath your shin so that your knee is kind of hovering. That's going to give you the most support. And so then from here, you want to make sure that that front knee is over your heel. So kind of walk that foot forward a little bit more. So it's not knee over ankle, but knee over heel. So you're really going to get into your inner groin here. And then walk your hands on either side of your foot. If you can't quite reach the floor, you always have pillows or blocks or something you can place on either side of that foot. So this is called dragon. And then maybe you kind of walk that back foot back a little bit. So you're dropping into those hips a little bit, getting into the inner groin here. And if you're feeling like you could maybe go a little bit deeper, maybe you have a little bit more mobility, maybe a little deeper edge, hands could come to the inside and you can bring your elbows to the block or floor. So that's another option. But just be mindful that you're not putting too much pressure in the knee. And just kind of notice that sensation that's happening. The back toe can uncurl, so you kind of just let yourself drop down into that hip. So take a moment here as you inhale, engage your muscles. Think of squeezing those legs toward one another. And then as you exhale, let all those muscles relax. And then find your edge there. So we'll settle in here for about 3 more minutes. And so the spleen, that meridian line, starts outside the big toe. It goes along the outside of that big toe into the arch, along the inner heel, and then goes to the back of the heel and goes around the outside of your ankle bone on the outside of your foot. And then it goes up the inner side of your calf, your knee, your groin. It comes up and crosses over the hip. It comes up the side waist. It goes up the ribs all the way up to the armpit. And then it goes back down the ribs, right about halfway into the ribs, and then goes inside and connects to the spleen. And that's where it ends. So you can kind of feel all of those areas on the inside, especially that back leg, that front leg. Just kind of notice those sensations in the body as you breathe. Being mindful not to go too deep. Your breath will tell you if you're holding your breath or if you're tensing your muscles. So in the practice of yin, we're stressing the joints. We're stressing those connective tissues just enough, just a little bit, to provide more lubrication for them, to provide more mobility for them. Not necessarily mobility, but for more youthful fluids to flow to those areas. So those areas can get dried out, they can get cranky, they can get stiff. And this just kind of helps lubricate those areas. So you have the option to stay here if you want to go into a little stronger version of dragon. You're going to shift your weight back ever so slightly so that you can come up onto those hands. And then reach back with one of your hands, grab onto that foot that's behind you. And we're only going to be here a minute. And then see if those hips can drop back forward while you're pulling your heel toward your bum. If that doesn't work, go back to the previous position. And it's just going to get into the top of the thigh. That's where the stomach meridian runs. And we won't hold this one as long because it's a little bit more of a yang position. You kind of do have to use some muscles in your upper body. And if you have a hold of that foot, ever so slowly let it go. And then ever so slowly shift the hips back. Walk that front foot back. Come into those hands and knees. You have options once again. You can do a little cat-cow action. You can do a downward dog. Whatever's going to feel best here. Just kind of as you're there, noticing those sensations on the left side versus the right side. And then when you feel like you're ready, start to transition to the second side. So stepping that left foot forward. And just starting with your hands on either side of the foot, making sure that front knee is over the ankle. And then walk that back leg back using any padding you need to. Uncurl the back toes. And just kind of notice this side might be different. Once we get into right side and left sides, none of that woulds, coulds, or shoulds that both sides have to be the same. They do not. I know mine definitely are not. And then just finding that edge, finding the part of that sensation to where it's not painful. It is uncomfortable. And you know that you can sit here in some stillness for another 3 minutes. So I always like to take that first minute to wiggle around, get everything out, and then hold for time. And if over time, maybe you can go a little deeper, maybe those hands come to the inside and your elbows come down a little bit. If you're ever wondering if you are using muscle, because I tend to grip in my booty, my gluteus maximus, I just give it a little squeeze energetically and then relax it. And that usually helps remind me. Just noticing those sensations in the body as you breathe. And just remember, if something is a little too much today, you can always come out of it at any time you need. Listen to your body. Try to let the brain not take over, let the body take over. Then you could choose to stay here if this is feeling good, or if you want to do that little stretch for the top of the thigh, slowly shift the hips back, taking one hand back to the foot and drawing the foot toward the back side as you drop those hips forward. Just breathing here, just a short time, just 1 minute here. You're keeping your hands or your leg down, you have about another 45 seconds. A couple more rounds of breath. Notice where you might be holding any tension and can you let it go? And then slowly releasing that leg if you have it. Shift those hips back so you can slide that left foot back. Coming to your hands and knees. And again, take a few rounds of cat-cow if you like, or a downward facing dog. Whatever's going to feel best to you. Just kind of notice the sensations on that right side. See if you can feel that energy start to flow a little bit more. And then our next pose is going to be Sphinx pose. So go ahead and calm down onto your belly. And I usually like to have a blanket or a pillow underneath my sternum here. It just gives me a little bit more support and it's less sensitive on my shoulders. You can also have a pillow underneath your arms, so you have that as an option. So then you're going to lay on your belly. You're going to place, if you have that blanket or pillow, you're going to place it right underneath your sternum, right underneath your nipple line. And then come up onto those elbows. You can place the elbows right on the floor. Your elbows can be wherever you need them to feel comfortable. But then lengthen the legs out. And then take them out a little bit wider than your mat, like a little bit wider than hip distance. And then engage the glutes. Press everything into the floor. Imagine you're doing Sphinx pose, like in Yang Yoga. And then exhale, just relax all those muscles. Kind of let the shoulders round forward a little bit. Let the glutes relax, let the legs relax. And just kind of notice that sensation. So we're targeting the low back here. If you feel like you want more sensation, you can prop yourself up on a pillow, on a block. And again, we're going to be here for about 5 minutes. And about 2 minutes left, I will give you the option for seal pose. Just kind of notice that sensation in the low back. So this, we've been compressing into the front body where that spleen line runs. Now we're kind of lengthening it and pressing into it, but lengthening it. Now we're kind of pressing into that back body. So the idea of these energy channels is when things get out of balance, when life happens, these energy channels get blocked. They get blocked with what are called grunties. And it's kind of like just the energy can't flow, right? So if you have a hose and it's running really smoothly, but all of a sudden it gets a little kink in it, or if it gets a little dirt or something grows inside of it, it can't flow freely. So kind of the same idea with this energy, we want it to flow freely. And when these grunties get there, we kind of have to move those meridian lines around by extending them and flexing them and moving them from side to side to help open up those channels of energy. So by holding in these poses, we're giving that body this time to be able to clear out those energy channels. So let go of what we don't need. And also just allow us to tap into those sensations in our body, to really connect with our physical body, which then allows us to connect with our breath, and then eventually the mind. You have a couple options for your head. If you really want to target the entire spine, you can let that chin drop to your chest, really getting into the back of the neck. If that's too much sensation on your neck, you can always place your forehead in your hands. You have a little bit of support so you can relax your neck. And by placing your hands on your forehead, you're stimulating that stomach meridian. So for people that are feeling they need a little extra edge, maybe their edge has dissipated, you want to go into seal pose. You can take those arms, bring them out a little bit wider than shoulder width, and then start to straighten them. So then you're going to let your arms support your upper body. Those shoulder blades are going to drop down. It's just going to target a little bit more of that low back. If again, this still doesn't feel so much to you, you can bring the hands back by the shoulders and do the same thing. That's just, I know, a little bit too much for me. And then again, try to relax the booty, those glutes. And then just breathe with these sensations. And if this is ever too much, just bring yourself back down. If your arms are straight, slowly start to bring them back down. Pause for a moment. Take a full inhale here. Let it go. And then start to slide any props out from underneath you, allowing yourself to lay onto your belly, maybe your forehead resting on your hands. And then taking your right leg, draw it out to your right side, bend the knee, and then look to the right side. Just a little release for the low back here. Let your belly breathe nice and full. And then slowly start to bring that right leg back down. And then switch your head toward the left, bend your left knee out to the side. And pause here for a couple breaths. And then bring your head back to center, bring that leg back down. And then from here, slide your hands underneath you and then press yourself back mindfully into child's pose for a moment. If child's pose isn't going to be happening for you, you can always sit and then hug your knees into your chest and let your head drop down onto those knees. Just finding a little tuck position. So you have child's pose or tuck. Just kind of releasing through that low back. Letting that compression get a little bit more expansion, a little extension in the low back. And then slowly bring your way all the way up to seated. This is one of the opportunities you can use the wall if you would like. We're going to do dragonfly, which is like a wide leg forward fold. So basically, if you're going to do it normal, you'll be here. You want to make sure you're not getting into the hamstrings. You want to make sure you're getting into the hips and the inner groins. So you might want to start with your knees bent and then work your way over time. Another option is if you have the wall, you have that as an option here, to where you can do the same thing at the wall. And then as you lean forward, you're just going to rest your head on the wall. So you have a little bit more support. Again, you want to make sure you're not feeling that hamstring stretch that you normally would, or that inner groin stretch. You want to feel more sensations in those softer tissues. So I usually do end up bending my knees at the beginning, so I'm targeting my hips. And then I just kind of start to lengthen forward. And again, we'll be here for about 4 or 5 minutes. So kind of just settle in. This is a good counter pose to that Sphinx pose we did. So from here, talking about that stomach meridian, it's our yang counterpart to the yin spleen meridian. And this starts just up along the cheeks on either side. It goes down the middle of the cheek, just to at the bottom of the eye, down along the cheekbones, up over the forehead and back again, where it goes inside. It goes down to the tongue, and then it comes down the side of the throat, along the collarbones, down the center of your chest near the nipple line, down those ribs. Then it goes in toward the abdominals and goes down either side of the center line of your body, down to your pubic bone. And then it goes across the top of the hips. And then it goes down across the hips, down to the hip bone, and it goes down in the thigh, the knee, and the shin, right along the top. And it goes all the way down the top of your leg, all the way down to the inside of your second toe. And that's where it ends. The stomach is one of the longest meridians. I think it's the second longest. Again, the affirmation for this is, I am content, I am calm. Forward bends tend to bring this type of sensation as it is. Again, just see if you can notice how your body breathes, how it moves as you breathe. Those sensations that are occurring in the body. You're especially targeting that spleen meridian, especially if you're up against the wall. Getting into those inner areas, that inner calf, knee, groin. About 1 more minute here. Take a full inhale here. Let it go. Very slowly start to make your way back up. If you're at the wall, very slowly pull yourself away. Just nice and easy. If you're in the middle of the room, you can slowly start to help those knees up. Find that little tuck position. And just pause there. Notice those sensations in the legs. especially that inner groin area, maybe into the outer hip a little. And then slowly coming up, taking any movements you need to let that pose go. Maybe bounce the legs, maybe rub the knees. And so our next pose we're going to come into is half shoelace pose. So we're going to come into that, taking our right leg over our left first. If you find that you're kind of rounding into the spine to begin, I always like to sit up on a little cushion or a blanket, kind of at a diagonal, so that my sit bones are kind of just lifted a little bit, so it kind of helps me pivot forward. And then our right leg is going to be on top. So this is half shoelace, so you're going to squeeze those inner thighs toward one another, and then just kind of let those legs relax. If it feels okay and you want to try, you can always take that bottom leg and draw it back as well, and just see how that feels. It might have a little too much sensation for you, so you might want to stick with half. I'm going to stay with half today. And then from here, you're just going to start to, if it feels okay for you, start to lengthen forward. And if there's too much pulling sensation behind your front knee, if your leg is straight, you can take a little blanket or a cushion and just place that under the knee to help alleviate any of that. And so now we're kind of compressing that meridian along the front of the body, the stomach and the spleen. And if your knee's nearby, maybe your head drops down on that. If it's not nearby, maybe you put a block or a pillow under your knee to drop it down. So depending on where your tension is, where your edge is, you could feel it anywhere from the inner groins to the outer hips to the low back, even down into the calf. And see if you can let your breath grow a little deeper here. Just notice the sensations as the body breathes. And taking a full inhale here. And let it go. Slowly start to make your way back up if you're coming forward. And then take that top leg, extend it out. If you have the bottom leg bound, go ahead and take that out. Just pause there for a moment. Notice those sensations. And then take any movements you need to, maybe ankle circles, maybe bouncing the knees, maybe a little leaning back into your hands to open up the front body. And then we'll switch to the other side. So that left leg is going to be on top. And if it feels okay, maybe that right leg comes underneath. If that's going to be too much sensation, just keep that bottom leg extended. And then just kind of notice if it's too much on the back of the knee, if you're getting too much into that back of the knee, and maybe put a little pillow under the back of the knee so you can get into the hips, into those inner groins. And then start to lengthen forward any little bit that feels good. Try to relax the legs, kind of give them a little squeeze to begin, and then let them relax. Just taking these first few breaths to kind of settle into that stillness. Try to let the arms be a little heavier if you can. Let those shoulders round forward. And just notice as the body, how it moves as you breathe. Taking a full inhale here. And let it go. Slowly start to make your way back up. Taking that top leg off first. And then the bottom leg if it's under. And just pause and notice those sensations. And then making any movements you need to. Maybe even leaning back into those hands. Maybe doing a little windshield wiper with the legs, bending the knees from side to side. And then we're going to come into our final and our second to last pose. If you feel that you're kind of done and you're ready for Shavasana and you don't want another pose, you can just lay back in Shavasana, or you can do legs up the wall. So either of those, or hopefully you'll stick with me and we'll do a twist. So go ahead and lay down onto your back. And if you have a cushion or a block, you might want to take that and place it over to your left side. As you're laying down onto your back. And then just from here, you're going to take both knees, draw them up to your chest, and then drop both knees over to your left. So again, that right leg might be hovering a little bit. Maybe you place a block between those legs. And just kind of notice those sensations. If you feel like your right shoulder is hovering too much, maybe put a little blanket or a bolster under there. Just try to take the body and twist it up toward the ceiling. So you're getting a little twist here to begin with. So just a nice easy twist. We're going to kind of go a little bit deeper with each passing minute. You can stay with whatever form feels best for you. See if you can relax the legs, relax the jaw. Just kind of notice the spine twisting, doing that rotation of the spine and the upper back. Then you have the option, you can stay here in this position with both legs over to the side. Or you can start to take that bottom knee and extend that bottom leg toward the end of your mat so it's straight. So then that's where it's nice to have that block on the side so you can support your calf or your knee. So that top leg has a little support. And that bottom leg is not completely straight because it's relaxed, but it's lengthened out. And again, you're going to feel a little bit more sensation on your top hip. You might start to feel a little extra sensation in that top shoulder. And if it becomes that your fingers start to have a little tingling sensation like they're falling asleep, just take your hand and draw it down below your shoulder, or even take that hand and rest it on your ribs. Because sometimes it gets a little tight in that little shoulder joint as we're doing our twists. And then just notice where you're feeling tension, where you're feeling compression. Just notice how the body moves as you breathe. And from here, you have the option, you can stay here if this is feeling good, you're at your edge. Or if you want to take your edge a little further, you're going to take that bottom leg, you're going to bend your knee so that your heel comes toward your bum. You're going to take your top hand, your right hand, reach down for that foot, see if you can grab it, and then draw that knee back in line with your hip a little. And then just kind of pause there, holding onto the ankle, so you get a nice little stretch through the top of the thigh. And breathe here. So again, if this does not feel good, go back to the previous version. See if you can let go of any tension, any muscle engagement. Just let yourself hang out in your joints, noticing those sensations. Few more cycles of breath here. Maybe repeating your affirmation for this practice. Take a full inhale here. And let it go, releasing any bind that you might have. And then taking that bottom knee, slide it up to meet the top knee. And then take your right arm, bring it over to the left. So you're laying on your left side, bringing your spine back to neutral over toward the left. Just kind of curl yourself up into a little ball. Just kind of notice those sensations that are happening. Taking those nice full belly breaths. And then when you're ready, roll onto your back. Knees are bent. Bring your hips back to center. Take any props you had on your left side and move them to your right. And then when you're ready, we'll switch to the other side. Take those knees, draw them into your chest, and then drop the knees over to the right. So again, just try to relax the legs. If you need any props under the knees or between the knees, let that happen now. And then kind of adjust the shoulders so they're kind of lifted up toward the ceiling. Let that left shoulder be heavy. Just kind of notice these sensations on this side. Allowing yourself to breathe. Maybe then taking that right hand and placing it on your belly and allowing that belly to expand into your hand. Just reminding yourself to let go of that tension that you might hold in the belly. Giving yourself permission to let go of holding anything in, just let it go. Finding that calm. Reminding yourself you are safe. And then you can stay here. Or you can start to take that bottom knee, start to extend that leg. And then keeping that left knee across the body. Just kind of let your body relax into a little deeper twist. Using anything you need to support your top leg. Maybe that right hand stays on the belly, reminding yourself to breathe deeper. Letting go of any tension that might be held in that area. And you're always welcome to stay here if this is feeling good, if this is feeling restorative to you. Or you can start to bend that bottom knee so the heel comes to the bone. Taking that left hand, your top hand, and reach it down, trying to grab the foot. And then draw that knee back in line with your hip slightly. So feel that stretch on the top of the thigh. And then see if you can relax your body again, especially your glutes. I know my glutes like to engage here. See if you can just let that go. Again, taking those deep breaths. The deeper the breath, the more your body responds, knowing that you are safe, knowing that you're calm. Notice where you might be holding any tension. And can you let that go, especially in the jaw, the tongue, the neck. Take a full inhale here. And as you let it go, release that foot if you have it. And slowly start to bring that bottom knee up toward the top knee. And then take that left arm over to the right, giving yourself a little chance to ball up, laying on that right side. And then when you're ready, bring yourself all the way onto your back. Place the soles of the feet on the floor, bring those hips back to center, and maybe just hug the knees in. Maybe even taking the knees to the side, little windshield wiper legs. And then we'll head into Shavasana here. Not very long, just about 3 minutes or so here. We've been on the ground a long time. So you have traditional Shavasana. You can lay back onto your back, maybe put a little blanket or a cushion under your knees for a little support, maybe under your low back, maybe even under your neck, feeling that support. Or you can lay on your side. You can even lay on your belly, or you have that option, maybe even legs up the wall. Just kind of take a position that's going to feel good to you, to where you can settle in. Just letting the front and the back sides of the body be open. Seeing if you can actually feel a little bit more energy flow through the body, from the head all the way down to the feet. Just kind of tune into those sensations that are happening in the body here. Allow yourself to let go, surrender into stillness. Just for a few moments here. Just another 2 minutes in silence, repeating maybe that affirmation to yourself. Let yourself surrender here. I'll bring us out with one bell to end the practice together. Take rest. Allowing your next breath to come in a little deeper. On your next breath, start to bring some movement into the fingers and toes, the wrists and ankles. And on your next breath, give yourself a long stretch. Reaching those arms back behind your head, slide the feet together. And maybe lean a little bit to the right, lean a little bit to the left. And slowly start to bend the knees, either hug the knees into the chest or windshield wiper those legs, whatever is going to feel best to you. And taking a moment, roll over onto your left side. Just pause there for a moment. Take a couple more of those deep belly breaths. And then mindfully press yourself back up to seated. Once you found that comfortable seat, let your eyes close. And either your hands can come back to your belly or maybe your hands pressed together in front of your heart, thumbs touching your chest. Allow yourself to come into the room, onto your mat, into your body. Reconnecting with that affirmation, with that intention of your practice. Allowing the strength, that energy flow, that breath of your practice today help you as you transition off your mat into your evening ahead. We'll seal this practice in as we close it together with either an Om or a sigh of the breath, your choice. Exhale fully here. Take a full inhale. Bowing your head slightly. Taking a moment Think of one thing in your life that you truly are grateful for. And then hold on to that image in your mind's eye as you raise your head with a smile. Thank you for being here. Thank you for finding some calm and confidence in your body. Drink lots of water, eat your veggies, wear sunblock. Namaste.